Well, things are getting rougher on Animal Farm. We've got the spring and summer being full of difficult work on the farm. They're working to build this windmill. Remember, it was Napoleon's idea. Uh, Not really, but remember now the official state line is that it was always Napoleon's idea, and it was not Snowball who was a traitor. So Boxer the horse now comes into prominence because he's a key figure. He's the muscles of the state, not the muscles in, not the enforcer, but the sort of the productive muscles. In that he is the one who's doing a large amount of work to move the stones. They got to quarry the stones. How do animals quarry stones? They can't use hammers and chisels and things like that. They're not equipped. They can't stand up. They can't do that kind of stuff. So they got to figure out a way, and they need just sheer muscle power because they're dragging rocks, huge amounts of rock up and dropping them off a cliff and smashing them below. That's the only way they can break the stone up to use it. And sometimes that doesn't work, and they got to drag it up all day. And so Boxer is this large horse, and his muscles are key. So his lack of intelligence, his allegiance to the revolution is front and center here. And he's got his slogans, right? You know, his slogans are "I will work harder no matter what." The solution to any problem is "I will work harder," and Napoleon is always right. So this is going to be important for controlling Boxer and harnessing his abilities. But again, Animal Farm, it has to trade, and so in that sense, it's going to Napoleon, good old Napoleon. He's going to deal with other humans. So humans are still bad. No, no, let's not kid ourselves. Humans are still evil, but Napoleon will be the spokesperson for Animal Farm. So he will take on that deadly risk of being corrupted by contact with evil people. So he will keep the general population of Animal Farm safely isolated from the external world, safely ensconced behind the fence of Animal Farm, and Napoleon will be the one who deals with human beings. He doesn't want to, but he's doing that again on behalf of Animal Farm. So in that sense, the animals are very uneasy about this. They're like, didn't we learn earlier that the humans were evil? So they're uneasy about dealing with them. But those old puppies, now attack dogs, they come in, a couple of good snarls, and the animals are falling in line. And Squealer again kicks into high gear. The excellent propagandist that he is, he comes along and is going to tell them that it never really was the case that dealing with humans was completely outlawed. We just said they were evil, but we didn't say you can't deal or you shouldn't deal with them. But they're evil, yeah, yeah, yeah. But sometimes you have to make deals with the devil or whatever. You can't change that. But the humans are still evil, but we'll have to deal with them. So he is always in there playing what historically might have been called the sophist, right? The one who's twisting in everything, able to use logic to twist things around. So even the notion of academic argument can be perverted when it's instrumentalized in the service of an ideology and ultimately of a revolution. So Squealer is telling them that the leader, his new term for Napoleon. So Napoleon is shifting from just simply being another pig to some kind of symbolic entity and identified up with, just leadership. That's Napoleon. And he needs a place. Right? He needs Napoleon can't just be in the pigsty. That's undignified to have a leader of Animal Farm in a pigsty. Yeah, he's a pig, but he's really a leader. So what do we have to do? Well, Napoleon, that's where Napoleon should live, right? He's the one that's in charge of Animal Farm. He doesn't really want to live in this house, but dignity of his office demands it. And also, dear Napoleon, he needs, that extra milk and the apples and a variety of other things. You can dig through the text and find all the other little privileges that the high-ranking pigs get. He needs to sleep in a bed, and then the animals are like, "What do you mean? We outlawed sleeping in beds. That was like you're not supposed to wear human clothing, and all these kinds of things that were originally identified as terrible and evil." Squealer says, no, he needs to live in the house. He needs a dignified place. And then Squealer says, let's really think, what is a bed? What exactly is a bed? And so Squealer is going to say things like, well, dear animals, is not sleeping on a pile of warm straw, is that not a bed? Don't we all sleep in beds? Certainly we never did anything so foolish as say no animal will ever sleep in a bed. We didn't ban beds. What we really did is we banned beds with sheets. So animals don't use sheets. So Napoleon, dear Napoleon, has to live in the old manor house where it's dignified, and he will sleep in a bed just like you do. He just won't have sheets, so there's no problem. So this fine grained, like getting in there and splitting, as we, colloquially we'd say, splitting hairs or whatever, something like that, is sometimes an older expression for that is logic chopping. And Plato was actually very concerned about logic chopping. He didn't think anybody should be taught philosophy before they were 30, because that ability to use logic, and you could sort of hack your way through arguments and hack up your opponent's positions. Plato says this is terrible. If logic is in the hands of the youth, and Orwell's kind of broadening it, when logic is in the wrong hands, Plato thought the wrong hands were his young hands, but Orwell is saying when logic is in the wrong hands of a squealer, of an entity, you get a squealer, right? So you can think of a squealer as some, even today we have lots of squealers, people that go out and they sell a party policy. Squealers are kind of those people that have to go out and greet the press and sell what the government is doing. That's a kind of squealer function. Well, that's a little bit extreme, but that's the basic idea. Is you're trying to sell this kind of what the authorities are doing, make it palatable, make people believe in it. That's essentially what a squealer is. It's not always this evil propagandist. It's just someone that's trying to get you to doubt what you thought and embrace what they're proposing. So in that sense, squealer is like, yeah, but what's a bed? What is that all about? So the windmill, after all this struggle, they finally get it built. And it's kind of depressing because it's built, all this labor, poor animals, they struggle to build it. They don't even have the right tools and anything, but they finish it, and they're cheering about it, and eventually it's destroyed in a storm. And what do you say? Is it the storm's fault? No, says Napoleon. No, says the government. It's Snowball's fault. Snowball has somehow snuck back in. Remember, Snowball was run off by the dogs in the great windmill debate. And then Napoleon says, yeah, the windmill was always my idea. So now that the windmill has been destroyed, well, who did it? It must have been Snowball. It can't be just an accident. No. It's not just a storm. There has to be a reason here, and the reason is that evil Snowball. So, comrades, we must rebuild this and defy the evil Snowball. And so we're going to not just build it, but we'll build it bigger and we'll build it better. Instead of thin walls, we'll build them thicker and we'll quarry more stone. And it's not as bad of a task as you might think, because it was just knocked down by a tree in the storm, so we could reassemble. So it's kind of reassembling and building it a little bit bigger and stronger. Well, the winter comes, so in chapter 7, the winter comes and it's rough. The old days of production are kind of disappearing. Work continues, but starvation threatens Animal Farm. And what happens? Well, if things are bad, you have to be, and the citizens, the population has to be convinced it's not that bad. And so there's trickery involved. So there is a starvation is happening, but Napoleon, he's trying to hide this. So if you have a bin full of a bin that's empty and maybe with this much grain in it, well, Napoleon was filling up the bottom with sand and then topping it off with grain to look like you have, tons and tons of food. And of course, everything is being blamed on Snowball. If anything bad happens and you can't hide it, you blame it on Snowball. Fear and the promise of protection, Squealer is out saying, if you think things are bad, what about, do you want The old way back, do you want Farmer Jones back? So we'll protect you. We are the ones, the revolution is protecting you from the old ways. So Farmer Jones is always this threat, this fear of Farmer Jones. So Squealer is out whipping up fear and promising protection. Think of Hobbes. And so Orwell is showing us this in Animal Farm, this link between fear and protection that Hobbes theorized back in Leviathan. Also, there are show trials. People are the animals are admitting weird things. So this kind of strange psychology that kicked in the Soviet Union is being duplicated, where people are confessing to odd things and trying and little mini rebellions start. That Napoleon wants to sell the chickens' eggs, and they resist it and threaten to rebel while they're threatened by the dogs. And Boxer, for an instance, that Boxer steps in and he kicks one of the dogs, so that there is a possibility of Boxer rebelling. And if Boxer had rebelled, he would have destroyed those dogs. They're not going to take Boxer down, but Boxer can't even think about really defying Napoleon, because Napoleon just looks at him. And Boxer, his sloganeering, right? Boxer's slogan, I will work harder, and Napoleon's already right. So there's another missed opportunity that had if this were a play, we'd all be cheering, no, Boxer, don't give in. Get rid of those dogs. Chase the dogs off. He could have, but his mind was too far gone. He was too indoctrinated. And this is, again, Orwell saying that, as he said many times in interviews, that there were places where the animals could have said no, and they didn't. So again, Orwell, is he saying that you kind of get the governments that you assent to or acquiesce to? It's not just, it doesn't start off with all force, because it's a small group taking over a large group. How does that happen? There has to be some kind of strange buy-in. How is it perpetrated? How is it continued? Again, there must be tipping points or important or fulcrum points, whatever you want to call it, where it could go a different way, but it didn't. Now, in this one, so the animals are not very happy when there is these show trials and then slaughtering. The animals are actually upset about it, and but they're starting to lose the ability. They're starting to lack the ability to express opposition. So the indoctrination is key. It's taking hold. So their minds are becoming more or less incarcerated by this ideology. There's a scene where they're deeply upset after a number of animals are slaughtered in these show trials, and they think something has gone terribly wrong, and then they burst into song, the old Beasts of England song, the original revolutionary song that they sing way back at the beginning of the book, and they're told that song is no longer acceptable. That's the beast, no more Beasts of England. Now we sing the Animal Farm song. Revolutionary songs are not needed. Revolution, it's done. The good times are here. We don't sing about revolution. We sing about preservation. And so now we sing, instead of the Beasts of England and the good times that are to come, and that's what we're working for. No. It's one of Animal Farm, never through me thou shalt come to harm. So it's a song of preservation and loyalty to the existing structure. There is no talk of future revolution in the current manifestation of the political structure. So in that sense, it's a new way of thinking. But as Orwell says, that the animals didn't like the new version that much. They liked the old version, the old tune, Beasts of England. This new one never, they sang it, but it didn't really resonate with